We're going to talk about PM stuff. If you came to talk about PM stuff, you're in the right place. If you didn't come to talk about PM stuff, stick around. We'll have fun. Let's get into the meat of why we're here. What is a project? Well, a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product or service or result. Is the answer you would choose if you were sitting for the PMP exam. Any aspiring or current PMs will be intimately familiar with this definition and understand why the words temporary and unique are underlined. I think I can confidently say that most humans that I've met in my life are all PMs, at least to some degree, whether they want to admit it or not. When we think about professional project managers, whether it be in the tech industry, they could be wrangling an ERP implementation. Like any other profession, there are skills both inherent and learned. So hard and soft skills that can make a good or not so great project manager. Let's talk about the evolution for just a minute, if you'll indulge me. So if we start all the way to the left, the Egyptian pyramids and the Great Wall of China. So around 200 BC-ish, China's first emperor, Qixin Huang, who'd been credited with uniting the various Chinese kingdoms, ordered literally millions of people to work on what is now the Great Wall of China. A lesser known fact is that he separated his resource pools into three distinct groups: troops, citizens, and criminals. So, resource management, allocation, all that kind of stuff. As we move forward down the line in the early 20th century, we got some pretty cool stuff. A guy named Henry Gantt gifted us all with the Gantt chart. And that is exactly why autocorrect always wants to capitalize the word Gantt, because it's named after that guy. The critical path method, which is a technique used to identify sequences of activities that must be done in order to complete a project on time. Later on, we see that the formation of the Project Management Institute came about. And that essentially began to recognize and formalize the PM profession. Then we see methodologies begin to spring up like weeds, and here we are today. There's an ever-increasing number of these things that are flying around, like hybrid, Scrum, Kanban, Scrumban, critical path, Lean, Prince2, Prism, RAD. It goes on and on and on. They also have like their own strengths and weaknesses based on any given situation. But when we boil it down, for most of us, there are two that seize to the top. If you're building a house, you know exactly what you're building. So it makes sense to have, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and then you get your house. When we think about software development and knowing what we know about technology, and it's moving so fast, and we change our mind, and we just want to add features. Sometimes there's features that we want to add in that didn't even occur to us at the beginning of the project. So that's what Agile is really all about. It's about taking this big chunk that's this deliverable and really slicing it up into meaningful pieces. Projects fail, they just do. So what failure actually means can get, it can get a bit philosophical. The numbers regarding just how many projects succeed versus fail are as wide as reasons for that perceived failure. That begs the question, what constitutes a failure? I would argue that just like success, it's ultimately in the eye of the beholder. Triple constraint. All right. In the project management world, there's a general understanding that a project is typically bound or constrained by three elements, which, just like everyone else in the PM world, are open to interpretation. So behold, the triple constraint theory, affectionately referred to by PMI as the iron triangle. So if you're taking the PMP exam, the iron triangle represents budget, scope, and schedule. Or in terms of things that most people can relate to, good, fast, and cheap. Any way you serve it up, we're essentially measuring the same things. You can have it good and fast, but it's not going to be cheap. You can have it good and cheap, but it's not going to be fast. You get the idea. So in essence, the triple constraint theory helps you recognize competing demands in every project. So for each one, you need to decide which demand is the most important. So a project manager is in charge of, managing the project, whereas the project sponsor ultimately has the responsibility of that project's success. So think about if you are implementing a new HCM or human capital management system for an HR firm. Your sponsor would probably be somewhere along the realm of, director or VP of human resources. And the project manager would be facilitating or orchestrating the work having to do to get to deliver that end result.
I think oftentimes the sponsor, when you say accountable, like it has oftentimes fiduciary responsibility in terms of like it might be coming from their budget. They might be reporting out to executive leadership or to senior leadership and be kind of a point of escalation when you're trying to get buy-in across multiple different potentially business units or teams. Sometimes one of the big pain points I think as a project manager is oftentimes we're not the manager, the HR manager of the team members. Making sure that that project manager has that good relationship with the sponsor, that the sponsor is fully bought in, and that the sponsor is in a position in the organization that it can be effective to escalate to if we're losing traction. And just that relationship between that sponsor and the project management manager, and how transparent that relationship can be in terms of raising risks and issues and taking them seriously. I just think it's a key indicator on whether a project will be successful and whether or not it really will not just get to the finish line, but be successful and add value and return on investment for that organization long term.